6.4, it's the allocation of the remuneration pool, and it's page 32 on your agenda. And I'll hand over to you, Marley.
Chair, morena, councillors. This kaupapa will be familiar to you all. Earlier in the term, we did have a workshop on the allocation of remuneration for additional responsibility. I'll take the report as read and just cover some of the highlights. The Remuneration Authority set the pay for councillors across the country, and so for this council in the current term, the total governance remuneration pool is 986,000 or thereabouts, and a base councillor remuneration of 63,121. Any pay that is allocated to councillors over and above the base remuneration must be clearly justified, and the report sets out the sorts of things that are taken into consideration by the Remuneration Authority. I won't repeat that. Last month, council adopted the committee structure and also made appointments with several leadership roles within the committee governance structure. Each of the roles have differing scale of complexity, and so what we've done is taken a look across the appointments and assessed how those appointments have been made. The authority will generally support any proposal that has unanimous support, fully allocates the remuneration pool, and clearly describes each role, the remuneration attached, and the members appointed. So once council approves a proposal, it will be submitted to the authority, and they have advised us that so long as they receive a proposal before the end of January, then they will gazette the proposal in early March. Whilst we have to wait till early March, payment will be backdated to the date of appointment, or the day after, actually, to be correct. You'll notice that at a very high level, the proposed remuneration structure is based on the following roles: Deputy Chair of Council, which is assessed as the highest responsibility, high complexity leadership roles, members holding multiple leadership roles, major committee chairs, standard chairs and co-chairs, and also deputy chairs. The exact ratios applied to each of those roles and the amount of remuneration is set out in the report, so I won't labour that either. What we're asking for today is the approval of the remuneration proposal, which includes a quantitative allocation model. That's the spreadsheet in attachment 1, and also the role descriptions for each of the positions, and that is in attachment 2. Both these documents show how the roles differ from baseline councillor duties and also why the additional remuneration is justified. That's me. Back to you.
Thank you, Marley. We'll go to questions. Tipper.
I don't support the paper. Just one question through the chair to Marley. In the last triennium, where there's a changing chair to deputy, how is that triggered? Is it by the terms of reference? Because I note a colleague of mine was the deputy, served as chair for a year before being changed to the chair. So I'm just wanting to know what was the right vehicle to ensure that the REM followed the responsibility. Not considering that any of these people are going to give away their important chair roles, but that was in fact the case at EPC last triennium.
Yes, so when changes like that occur, given that it's not a change to the role or the remuneration, it's simply the person who's holding the role, then the updated REM follows when that change happens. So if there are any changes to appointments through the course of the year, you can expect that the remuneration that is attached to that responsibility follows whoever is appointed to the role.
Agreed, but
Yeah.
where that person is the deputy and serves as that for over a year before it's recognised by council to put that person as chair, what was the right remedy for that situation? I'm asking because it's not in the terms of reference.
Yeah, sure,
It's at the discretion of council. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out where we should have triggered that.
sure. So the trigger point should have been to address, I guess, the appointment sooner. And so changing the appointment of the chair sooner would have meant that the remuneration would have followed earlier as well. Yeah, so a council decision essentially.
Sorry, just Marley, Jen.
Yeah, thanks. No, happy with the paper all in all. Happy to move it. I just don't need any changes to the paper as such, but just putting the expectation out there because I didn't see it written explicitly. The people who are specifically involved in, say, the joint committees, and especially when it's chair of a joint committee, just want to acknowledge the extra work that's involved in actually working with all the members of that. Which is not as easy as when you're working with an internal committee where your members you see pretty much all the time. And the same goes for the JMA committees and so forth. So just putting out there that the expectation is, including on CEDM, let's say, where we're just a member, as opposed to the chair, that we put in that work to get all the members working together because it's for the benefit of our council to have these committees working to the best of their ability. Thank you. And it goes without saying probably, but it did come up last training briefly. Say, Robbie, you mentioned it as well. You know, it's that the chairs of each committee involve all of the members in all of the parts of the work so that there's no allegations of like, oh, why is a part of a committee running ahead and doing things and not involving that? So we know that having been here before, but just wanted to put it out there because expectations at the start make it clearer rather than bringing it up later in a problem. Thank you.
Robbie.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Marley, for your hard work in trying to make this as fair as possible. And I don't know if Noel's going to speak, but thank you for listening to myself and Noel about the effort that we put in and Noel's effort in all parts of his workload that he does within his constituency and the outer areas. So I think it's the work you've put into it and working out council's workload is, thank you for your effort. It's very appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Robbie.
You're happy to second? Are there any other comments? So we have oh, sorry, Ben.
Yeah, I was just going to say in relation to what Tipper was raising earlier, as I understood it, the person for EPC remained as chair until they formally stood down, so that there was no mechanism to, if they weren't absent, if someone was chairing it in their absence, it wasn't capable of paying someone at a deputy level when they weren't actually the formal chair. Is that correct?
Yes, what occurred last term is the chair stood down, but what council could have chosen to do is change that position as a council rather than waiting for someone to stand down. So I guess that's just a action or a approach or a direction council could have chosen to take, and just one worth highlighting given the question.
And I just want to note that maybe Robbie will now have on his business card, he's capable of high complexity leadership.
Let's not go too far. Right. So we yeah, it does. We have a mover and a seconder for the motion in front of us. All those in favour? Oh,
I'm voting for it. I just wondered, where do we report yours, Mr. Chair, just so that we're all in the light of day? Is it I know it's a separate pool, but is it a separate paper?
Well, we don't typically bring a paper on the chairperson's remuneration to council on the basis that there is no decision to be made by council. It's set by the Rem Authority. I can't tell you exactly what that is off the top of my head, but it is in the vicinity of something like 180,000 per annum. Mm. Mm. Yeah, and it's set out in legislation. That's all public information. So I'm very happy to follow up with an email and just let you all know what that amount is.
Just
Through
note,
the chair, I was just
that
going
was
to,
just sent out, yeah.
I was going to maybe going to say the same thing. You go. There is legislation that sets all the remuneration.
Yeah.
And that is publicly available. And as I said, it can be distributed.
Well, it already was. This week, we got a note of what the Remuneration Authority was doing.
It is of public record, yeah. Any opposed? So carried. Thank you, Marley. Right, the next item before council is the 7.5, which is the River Authority, Waikato River Authority nomination on page 39. Now, this has come about, as you will be aware, potentially that Councillor Stuart Kneebone's nomination in April of last year for his end of term, which was in about June of last year. We put that in. The minister has not made a decision on that nomination. So I made an inquiry on whether we have the ability to withdraw that nomination and renominate. Had advice back from the minister's office that we do have that ability. And so I did make that aware to the River Authority and also to Stu himself, so that it wasn't a shock or anything like that. For me, I think it's important that we have a councillor in that position as a nominee, and it's still up to the minister to approve or not, of course. But it gives us a feedback back into this council chamber, relatively simply being a councillor. So, and following up from that, so I would actually like to nominate Gary Raymer for that position.
I'd like to second that nomination, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
I have a nomination.
Councillor Hughes, and happy to hear for any other
I'd like to
nominations.
nominate Noel Smith.
Is there a seconder for Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I'll second. Yeah.
Thank you, Jen. Are there any other nominations? No, so we have Councillor Smith on the line and Councillor Raymer in the chamber. So I'll go to those two councillors for.
Oh, before you do
comments.
that, could I go to point 1 about the withdrawal process that this council has decided to invoke with regards to Councillor Stuart Kneebone? I think it disregards his contribution on WRA doing it this way. I think there's enough rapport that he would have resigned himself knowing we wanted to reappoint. This way it casts, I guess, the assumption that he did not serve this council by removing him this way. And I just wonder what kind of people we are to award excellent service in this role by revoking a resolution that most of you had nothing to do with. You were not involved in the nomination of Stu to this role. So again, on what 10 are you taking him out? That's not withstanding. I think the second part needs to happen, but how we do the first shows the character of this council. So somewhere in there, you've got to recognise his service to this council as representing us on the WRA. The second step would be, Stu knows now, he can resign so that we can fill the role without it having to be a revoke of that service, because it's a judgment call that I don't think any of you have the privilege to make. That's just my opinion. And it's harsh. Well, unless there's better words, that seems like someone hasn't served their purpose.
Yeah, I think we could add some better words as well.
So just to follow up on that, I did send an email to Stu, thanking him very much for his long service on the WRA, and speaking to what I've done in that and what you've raised. So I did email that through to Stu well prior to this, when the question was raised on whether he was still appointed or not, because there was some confusion on whether his appointment had been clarified or not. So his position currently is that it hasn't been clarified, and that is why this has arisen in this ability. So I'll go back to Councillor Raymer first for some comments.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the nomination and the seconder. Look, I haven't spoken to all of you people. I haven't actually canvassed any of you people. It's just not my style to go around and canvass people. And even through the election to the campaign, I think Councillor Ben Dunbar-Smith told me I'd get out there and walk the streets and bang on doors, and I didn't do that. I tried to let my reputation carry it, and people knew who I was and what I stood for. And I think I bring a high level of integrity to the position. I think it's also very good to have a fresh set of eyes over the River Authority, somebody who hasn't been here for a while and looked into things. But I'm definitely firmly aligned with the river. I understand where the treaty obligations are and where they sit. And also listening to the presentation this morning on RMA and the changes and impact around that and where they sit. So I am no expert. I talked to Stu Nebone last night and had a conversation with him as well, and said to Stu, if I am successful, I'll need to have regular conversations with him just to help me in space where I'm weak and where I need help. So we're trying to do a bit of homework in anticipation of this job. If I'm unsuccessful, that's fine. If I'm successful, I'll endeavour to be the best I can be for as your representative, but the Crown nomination, and very clearly it's a Crown area thing. So I look forward to your support.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. And I'll come to you on Noel line. Online, Noel.
Thank you, and I apologise if I am not coherent in my language this morning. I've got a whole lot of stitches in my mouth, and it's a little bit uncomfortable speaking. So, hey, look, thanks to those who have nominated me and seconded me. The issue we have is a person for the WRA. Looking at the criteria of the person, I think I meet all of the criteria set out. I'm familiar with the background to the WRA and its inception through the governors initially, and obviously with the current work with JMAs and Waiora, have a fairly strong area of work in the river space. My concern is that this will turn out to be a rates control versus the rest, and I really am disappointed if that is the case. I see myself as the best person to take the role. However, politics is an interesting game, so I'll leave it to the rest of you to decide. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Noel. So what we will do is we will break the resolution down into those parts that you can see on the board there, and noting Tipper's point earlier with number 2, making sure that we do thank and recognise the effort that Stu has put in over the years and the many years that he has been involved in that space. So we have the first point, which is to take the report of the Waikato River Authority and withdraw and nominate an appointee on this council meeting. So I'm happy to move that as seen there, and it's been seconded by Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. The second one is that the resolution that was made back in the 27th of February, previously nominating Stuart Nebone, be revoked. And as I mentioned, that we do thank Councillor Nebone for his contributions over those years.
Can I just speak to that one very briefly?
Yep, sure.
Look, I just, as a bit of context, I mean, Tipper served as co-chair with Stu on the River Authority, and they undertook some significant work on there to make that co-governance entity really hum, from what I understand from the conversations that I've had with them. So just verbally, I'm just going to say thanks to both of them for that. And I understand the logic of wanting a current councillor, and I understand with the delays with the minister that is how it's come about. So, yep, thank you.
Thank you. So we have resolution number 2 in front of us. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Ben. Was that Keith? Keith, all those in favour? Opposed? So carried. The third one is that the council nominates Gary Raymer to the Minister Chris Bishop as its nominee for the Waikato River Authority. I'm happy to move that. And a seconder, thank you, Chris. All those in favour?
Given that we've got two nominees,
Opposed?
given that we have two, can we not ask questions of them before we go to this voting part? Because I've heard their spiel, I just don't know that they've answered the 3 questions asked of the role.
I don't think that's a requirement at this stage. Tipper, we have heard from both nominees. Sorry, Dave, you wanted to talk to process?
Normally when there's 2 for a role, you get to ask them a question. Mr. Chair, that's been the convention at council since we've started.
Thank you.
For our committee chairs.
Just for clarity's sake, this motion isn't treated the same as when we appoint chairs under the Local Government Act, i.e. when we choose the voting systems and so forth. So with the 2 nominees, what we can do is we have a motion, which the first motion is that Councillor Raymer be nominated. If that motion is lost, we have a foreshadowed motion that council then nominates Councillor Smith. So, in other words, should council wish Councillor Smith to be the representative nominated, the first motion nominating Councillor Raymer would need to be lost in order for the second motion to be tabled. If the first motion for Councillor Raymer is carried, we will not put the second motion.
Okay, so now that I understand the process, apologies, I'm caught in now. I should have said when I spoke to this, as the former co-chair of the River Authority and probably having the most history because I was on the statutory establishment board prior to the River Authority as well with Kataroina, we would hope that any appointed member would lean into our expertise because it's obvious that both members would need support. Again, neither of you have talked to us, tēnā koe mō te reta. The co-governance, not a strength at this table. Yeah, so I'm just noting it's only co-governance in the River Authority room. I respect that you've both got financial management, but in terms of strategic governance, the vision and strategy is what I expected to hear from both of you because that's the review currently on. Knowing generic stuff about co-governance doesn't quite cut it 10 years plus in on the River Authority. The other thing about Waipa is you have had your lion's share of funding from the River Authority, and this will be the 3rd Waipa representative in a row appointed by this council. So note the bias, we'll check in on it and make sure that every other catchment benefits. I just note Councillor Livingston, Councillor Kneebone, and should it go this way, Councillor Raymer, will all no doubt continue to benefit in the Waipa. Kia ora.
Thank you for that statement, Tipper. We have a nomination and process in place. All those in favour of item 3?
Aye.
I did previously, but I will do it again, that the council nominates Council Gary Raymer to the Minister Chris Bishop as its nominee for the Waikato River Authority. All those in favour? Opposed?
Division.
Are you calling for division? Yeah.
Okie dokie. This will be the same process as we had previously. I will call your names. You are voting on whether council nominates Councillor Gary Raymer to Minister Chris Bishop as its nominee to the Waikato River Authority. When I call your name, can you please turn on your mic and indicate whether you support, oppose or abstain from Councillor Downard?
Support.
Councillor Dunbar-Smith?
Support.
Councillor Hodge? Councillor Holmes?
Support.
Councillor Hughes?
Support.
Councillor Ma?
Support.
Councillor Mahuta?
Against.
Councillor Maguire?
Support.
Councillor Nicol?
Against.
Councillor Raymer?
Support.
Councillor Smith,
Oppose?
Councillor Stolwick,
Support.
Councillor Strange,
Oppose.
Councillor Cookson.
Support.
Jacob?
The motion is carried, 9 votes to 5.
Thank you, Dave, and congratulations, Gary, on your appointment to the Waikato River Authority. Nomination, sorry. Sorry, Minister appoints. Quite correct. Right, our next item up is item 7.6, which is the letter to New Zealand Transport Agency on Te Huia extension. That's on page 47 of your agenda. And we have Phil joining us. Yeah. I was going to say morning, but it's afternoon now, Phil. So, and if you will introduce your colleague to us as well, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, councillors. I'll introduce James Llewellyn, who's a contractor supporting the Te Huia programme. He's been leading the 6 work streams that we've described to you over several previous discussions. So by way of introduction, the paper in front of you this morning is an alternative opportunity for council to consider in the context of the future of the Te Huia train as it comes towards the end of its trial period. The annual plan and the workshop that we had on Tuesday described the options that are available to you to continue with the annual plan process or to consider and decide whether to send this letter to the NZTA board ahead of them potentially considering a change to that process via a 12-month extension to the trial to be decided with your support at the February board meeting. We're here really to answer any questions that you might have, but we'll let you have a full conversation about your thoughts on this opportunity and really pass to you for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Phil. So yeah, so this is for questions, councillors, around this item. Noting that we did have the presentation from the Hamilton City Council deputation this morning. I take it, please let me know if you're not, that you all received Dave's email yesterday on the 3 letters of support from the Hamilton City Council, the Waipa District Council, and also the Waikato District Council. And you've all seen that. And we'll open for questions. Angela.
Okay, so just to clarify, questions?
Yeah.
Comments are coming later or?
Questions, comments, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll start us off. Thank you, Phil and James and the team for all of your work and acknowledge that the workshop that we had last week and the discussion that was had there, which will soon be released into public. Yeah, also want to acknowledge your work behind the scenes as well, working with NZTA staff around coming to this point of time with sending the letter. Just want to remind councillors that this is, part of a 2-step process in regards to the annual plan, similar to what was discussed the other day around a 2-step process around talking to primary industry stakeholders as well. In the best interest of our ratepayers, in my opinion, sending this letter makes complete sense. we heard through the campaign that, you know, people are hurting with rates and asking for the continuation of this FAR rate for the full potential of the trial to be realised, in full support with our partner councils as well. Makes sense for the ratepayer, not just right now, but future ratepayers in the future. Te Huia is about more than just a train. It is about what it unlocks and the strategic place that it plays in the Upper North Island as well, not just for Hamilton, but for future rail connections, south, east, and of course, north into Auckland as well. I'd just like to remind councillors of last Thursday, the trip we took, looking at our flood infrastructure, talking to our representative from Auckland Council, who also sits on Future Proof, and the indicative support from them as well. Then on Friday, for those of you who weren't present at Future Proof, we had full support, which has now been followed up from some letters for our partner councils as well. Yeah, given that this paper today is to send a letter, it's not indicative of any future decisions, because those decisions will come back to us. I would like to move this motion, and yeah, I'll leave it there for further questions and discussions.
Thank you, Angela. Ben?
Yes, I am not comfortable with the letter in its current form. I'm comfortable with us asking, as the mayors have requested us, to ask for a 60% FAR rate for a 1-year trial extension. But if they choose not to give us 60%, I believe we should go back to the current position, as stated in the workshop. NZTA will decide on co-funding a permanent Te Huia service at its April 2026 board meeting. So I think there's been, almost $250,000, more than that, spent on analysing the service and looking to see whether it is viable as a permanent service. We should allow NZTA to make that decision if they don't approve the 60% trial extension. If they come back at 51%, I'm saying they should actually go back and let us know what is the permanent future, because that's the work we've done already. The idea that the train is magically going to turn around and increase patronage to make it viable, I don't think it's viable. There was a 10%.
It's already meeting its targets, Ben.
Well, it's not meeting its targets. There is currently
Look, let's keep the discussion to the letter.
Yeah.
You proposed, and it was something that has been circulated to councillors, so I hope you've seen it, a redrafted letter.
Yes.
Which I did. Dave, do you have a copy of? No, Dave doesn't have a copy of. Okay. So
it amends the letter, and so I would forward that to Dave and ask him to.
Yeah.
I don't need the
Editing is
detail,
right.
but what's so
Okay.
offensive about said letter, please? We're in a process conversation here. Is it
Ben, do you
just wanting to know, without going
this
through the
question-
detail, what are the matters that you need addressed?
Basically, the letter says that the letter at the current stage starts off asking for the 60%, then talking about the Te Huia, the first three sentences of this as it is, and then it says if the NZTA board chooses not to do the 60% for the trial, then we go automatically back to them making a decision based on their evidence and evaluation to whether they want a permanent service or not. And then at that point, once they've made that decision in an April meeting, we can decide where we're at and what the long-term implications are for rolling stock and everything else. We have a full evaluation.
I understand the direction, but it's not in our role to tell NZTA what their job is. We can express a preference and our key timelines, but I'm pretty sure they know their remit. They're appointed under public sector board with their different. So all I can say is any council can put up a best case, but it's not our jurisdiction over them to do anything
Just like to
or direct
answer-
them to do anything.
Would like to answer that. At the moment, NZTA is currently deciding on co-funding a permanent Te Huia service at its April 26 board meeting. That's the current state. That's where we're at. This,
So the letter's asking for that clarity to be made
This-
sure that,
no, this letter is asking for an extension for a year at
Them
60%.
to think about that.
So there, I'm saying that we carry on, the train carries on its current track apart from this letter.
Jen,
That's
Yeah,
do
so
you
I mean,
want the whole letter?
I've had a look at the letter and I note some key differences. I think that I understand the intention of wanting to be a bit more forthright and blunt about the fact that we want the 60% bar rate. And that's a good thing in my view. I think it's really important, being in a trial, that is a request of ours and a preference of ours. I think that it is best if our letter leaves all the options open as much as possible for our February meeting. And so I think it might go a little bit too bolshy in some parts. I note that when Phil King drafted the letter, there are some bits in there about how we're very grateful for NZTA's contribution, which are now no longer in there. I think we should put that back in. It's one short sentence, because ultimately it is a diplomatic exchange. And so if we find the right balance, I think we'll get to a good letter. That's where I'm at. The key difference also is that, Ben, in your draft there, you've taken out the piece around requesting part funding of rolling stock business case. And I'm just going to invite you to say why that is. And then I would ask whether Phil could comment on why he put it in there and what the consequences are of us not putting it in here and all of that. Thank you.
If I just answer that, I think Phil's letter is fine, the first three paragraphs, then it gets confusing because it seems to, it's then asking about rolling stock and asking for 50% of 550,000 be allocated by the board. I'm saying the board should make a decision on firstly whether it wants to actually move forward with a trial, and secondly, what its permanent decision is before we start asking for money for rolling stock. Happy with that in a separate letter, possibly good to go to the April meeting, but not confused in this.
yeah, leave that mic on, Phil.
So fundamentally, the alternative version of the letter doesn't raise any significant concerns from my perspective. The discussion about the funding for investigating future rolling stock options was something that was touched on at the workshop with the agency last week. And it was a question that you put to me on Tuesday at the annual plan workshop. My comment there is the same, which is that we need to be working hard to secure that funding because it will really help us with the delivery of that work. If we don't get NZTA support for that work, we'll fund all of it ourselves, and that will have a greater cost to us. But that discussion could be carried alongside this one. So the removal of that paragraph isn't significant in itself.
I'd be happy to split it into two letters, but it would be silly not to ask for part funding as a council in this time of rates capping coming up on us. Thank you.
Chris, you had your letter.
Thanks. Well, look, I'm on the same page as Ben. To be quite honest, I cannot see the point in running the service beyond the end of June next year if the NZTA are not going to support this at the requested VAR level. The result is inevitable. The costs are unknown at this stage, and that's what scares the living daylights out of me. We know about the rolling stock or potential rolling stock, but there's a lot of other complications in terms of the decision making. We don't have that information. I don't believe we should even be wasting money on determining that information until we've got NZTA support. Once we've got it, we've got a commitment and we can move forward. At the moment, there's too much uncertainty, and I don't believe our ratepayers should be wearing the cost. Thank you.
Gary Raymer.
So I concur with what Chris just said. I was going to go down the same line. You know, it's just that level of unknown beyond the trial that has me concerned, and what we're committing to. So, which then I question whether we need a trial. What I also haven't seen, or maybe I've missed it, is what are the target passenger numbers that you want to see at the end of the trial? So what is it? And is there enough stretch in there to say that if we hit those numbers, we've actually got success, or is it just that 280?
So at this stage, there's no need to answer that, but this is just regarding the letter. Let's stick with that. That's obviously a greater conversation that will come up through transport. Keith.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. I'm supporting the stance that Ben's promoting because I think in this whole discussion, it's not about getting rid of rail. It's actually, I think there's a bigger picture that needs a longer conversation. And in terms of Te Huia, it's not fit for purpose. The rolling stock is more of the same. And it's and in terms of the work that we need to do, it's money spent, which is not going to achieve the best outcome for the Waikato. So absolutely support Ben's rewording.
Yep. Gary Maguire.
I support what Chris was saying over there, but my concern still is that it's not just rolling stock, it's the actual...
Can we stick to the letter, guys, please?
The rolling stock part out.
Rolling stock, but also stations.
Thanks. Tipper.
Oh, I just wanted to come back to the letter, Mr. Chair. I just think that it doesn't reflect the long relationship we've had with NZTA talking to them like this. We developed the highways through this region with them as a partner in this development. If we're talking to a partner, talk to them like a partner in this. We don't have to stick fingers up noses. I just think there's a tone to this, and I just want to leave doors open for those that have to make happy friends like you, Mr. Chair. I'd rather be the one sticking my finger up their nose than have you sign a letter that does it. So tēnā koe.
Thank you.
Sorry. We are probably the only other big user of rail when we move our masses. And to note, the biggest event in the Waikato will be hosted at Hopopu in February of 2027. It is a whopping great train access there. So again, we'll be using it. We used it for both the last funerals and for some of the major trips to Wellington. So we look forward to this increased service. Kia ora.
Jen.
Thank you. Yeah, look, NZTA has put more money into this than anybody. So we're a partner with them, and to Tipper's point, it's just about the tone of the letter. I think that, Ben, your intention, we can absolutely get in there. But the sticking point, perhaps, in a way, is what if NZTA receiving this letter want another year of data? They look at the 3 years, 9 months, and they're like, we wanted a 5-year trial, and we're a big partner in this. So if they want the extra year, it's their prerogative to say, we want the extra year. And one of the reasons they might say that is because it lines up with their funding round, their National Land Transport Plan and Fund. And for our better decision making, rather than new council right now in your plan learning phase, we could do it in the long-term plan like we were requested to by our other partner this morning. So I think we should be a bit flexible to just see what they want to say, while being really strong, as you've intended, to say we want the 60% FAR. We really do. And you know, whether you add in the fact that we're under lots of pressure at the moment with rates capping and other things to consider, go nuts with it. But if we could just tweak the letter through a short break or something, I think we can get on board with it.
Ben.
It's my suggestion.
I'm really happy to add the last sentence Phil had. Council is very grateful to NZTA for its continued support to Huia and hopes to the request for 1 year extension we considered. That can add at the bottom. I'm just saying that the mayors have been asking for 60%, and so we should stick with that. But if otherwise we drop back to make a decision on the permanent service that you've been evaluating and we've spent a lot of money on.
So I think we've got to an answer, and you're happy to have that piece in the bottom. So just testing that with council is that last paragraph that was in the original letter is happy to go at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robbie, you're pointing.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Noel.
Look, I've just put something in there. It says keep it simple. asked for the extension and keep it at asking to be kept at 60%. The reality is, if it's a no, then what Ben is suggesting is automatically comes into play, that the review will be done in April on the answer given. And introducing other things about stations or otherwise is irrelevant and I think it's defeating. So keep it simple, to the point, and if it needs a rewrite, take a break. Yeah, thanks.
So I just comment that I've removed the reference to rolling stock and stations, so that's out. If we add in the sentence that we're grateful for their continued support, it tones the letter down. But I'd hate them to think that if they come back at 51% for a trial,
we understand the
that's
go
right.
to the letter. Thanks, Ben. No need to. Yep, Liz.
Yeah. I think we're all largely agreed, which is great. But I'm even more happier that Phil is happy with the amended letter, because I think bringing staff on the journey is really important as well. So agree with the sentiment. I'd like this letter, once we've got it confirmed, to actually go out to all the councils, because I think we need absolute clarity, and they need clarity around our intended timeline, because I think right now there's probably a little bit of confusion about what happens when, and when the key decisions are going to be made and by who. So identifying what NZTA decisions are going to be and when and what board meeting, if we can just get that timeline out to all the councils so that we don't have a last minute flurry like we had this time, around the councils not really fully understanding where we're at. So if that's something we can agree on, that would be good.
Thanks. So what we have in front of us basically, I think, picks up everything we've spoken. It picks up Ben's addition in that space. You'll note there that we also, including that last paragraph that's under 9.2, and the council is very grateful, etc., as Dave's outlined there. So I think we can move to basically put this motion. If
just before you put it, Mr. Chair, I think that staff understand what you're requesting here, and I just want to recheck. Is there any advice you have that would be to the contrary of what the discussion has been and what's suggested?
No, none at all.
Thanks for that clarity.
Just a procedural question through about the paper, through both the CE and yourself in the future, and this is in support, Ben, of those of us who might be really behind an issue and they're coming to council. What would be the best way to get it advised in? Because I note that we're the democratically elected, not the experts on the matter. Would it be to refer it through the CE, so that you can? So I just note this is the third time that we've had to check out resolutions on screen, and I commend the councillor for his effort, but it's always finding out on the morning of, and it's very hard to be responsive. So my suggestion, Ben, would be it should have gone to Chris and or Phil so that they could arrive with some better placed words that suit your ambit, rather than us batting here, because it does lead to very messy process, and we want excellence. I thought that's what we're going for. They're looking just for protocol, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand the sentiment, and just acknowledging that this has dropped out of a workshop and out of some letters that have kept coming to us from councils.
From councillors at this table.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be that late. That's all I'm asking for. Kia ora, greater disclosure.
Understand the sentiment. Sorry, Chris.
Just in response, I'd like to thank Ben and compliment him on the effort that he's put in. I received this yesterday, and I don't think that's unreasonable. It's not a significant change. So thanks, Councillor Dunbar-Smith, for your efforts.
The mistake was it didn't go. The mistake was it didn't go to Dave, so he could actually write it up.
Yeah.
So,
No, I can.
So looking for a mover and a seconder. Oh, sorry, it has. Yep. Sorry, Councillor Strange, seconded by.
Happy to second.
Happy. Thank you, Councillor Mahuta. All those in favour?
Part 3 of this resolution has an and or, and that is subject to the NZTA board decision. The public engagement will either be part of the annual plan or the long-term plan process. Just checking that both of those should remain full.
We don't have an NZTA board decision, so that resolution highlighted the next steps of following their decision.
So we don't need to pass that one?
All those in favour?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. So that brings us to lunch. Thank you very much, and we will be back at 1 p.m. Yeah.